share the screen here in a little bit, but Zach, I really want to hear a little bit before we get into all that. I want to hear a little bit about your background, kind of, where you kind of got started, just a little bit about you for the audience that doesn't know who Zach Voorhees is, right? They may not have read about you. And so I think it's so important. So a little bit about you, share a little bit about your story.
Yeah, well, I come from the forests of Oregon. I got into the University of Oregon, 3 majors in computer science, psychology, and mathematics. I went to California to follow the dream, and I got accepted into Google. I thought that was the dream, and then that dream turned into a nightmare in 2016 when the wrong presidential candidate got democratically elected. I'm talking about Donald Trump. And the company decided that they were going to be the gatekeepers between their audience and fake news. Of course, they defined that fake news to be political in nature and to cover the ass of Hillary Clinton. And so I started to unravel this sort of grand conspiracy within Google that was taking over Google. And I wanted to warn not only the United States, but the rest of the world that, hey, look, AI censorship is coming and it has a name. And that name is called machine learning fairness. And so I took the documents describing this program, I collected them together in a 950-page dossier, which I handed off to Project Veritas. And then they were able to launch and enact a successful sting operation on Jen Janai, in which she said out of her mouth that only something the size of Google could stop the next Trump situation. A few months after, I came out, blew the whistle, more whistleblowers started to come. We had this wave and then boom, COVID hit in, October, November. Officially it was like December or January, but we saw it coming before then. And then Joe Biden got elected after the election games. And so I said, you know what? We got a problem. Like everyone's been purged. Like, a lot of us got purged off of YouTube for talking about the Hunter Biden laptop. And now it's coming out that it was actually driven by the FBI. And so, I said, this whole gatekeeping thing sucks. I don't like the current video hosts because I feel that they're missing a feature. One is that, Rumble at the time was still featuring cat videos on the very front part of their page. And I said, well, I can take all this information and organize it better myself. And so right after Biden got elected, I started to work on a solution to that. And that solution is called blast.video. It's the best place for news on the internet 24/7.
I have to agree with that. Zach, most people would say that what you're talking about is all conspiracy theories. They don't really censor us. They don't really throttle. They don't really have algorithms. And, I wouldn't have believed it. Honestly, I myself would not have believed it. I would have said, no, I don't think people can do this. Right. And then, your story, but your story, even though it came out, it was like quick. And then it was like, get it out of there real quick. Don't let nobody know. And so it was really hard for the average American to really know what was really going on. And I think that, we've all been exposed now slowly and surely because the American people are so tenacious and they're fighters and they really want to know the truth. They don't want to be lied to anymore. So they've been digging themselves. They've been trying to figure things out. And so, and I just love the spirit of the American people. Right. And so I am all, look, freedom of speech, if the other side believes what they believe or another side, it doesn't matter. I don't care what side you're on, but never censor one over the other just because you don't like what they're saying or because you don't want people to hear what they're saying. It's a controlling game. And I'm mind blown. I did watch the movie of, oh my goodness, what is his name? The one that's not Julian Assange, but the other guy that's in Russia.
Snowden.
When I watched that movie, I said, this has got to be Hollywood. Like literally, like they can literally zone into cameras and follow you around, listen to your stuff all over the place. And I just was it just was mind blowing to see this. And so, here we are looking at your blast video. I talked about this on my radio station two Mondays ago. And my listeners were like, wait, what is that? Where, what is that? What? And so we started getting text in, and I told them, and I said, look, it's kind of a library where everything is organized. You can look at what's trending. You can look at what's independent journalist, populist, mainstream, and then you threw in a health thing in there and the news. And I love the news because it's all the articles. So like you
Hmm.
can come and find out who's publishing and what's publishing. And so this has been a very, very good resource. And I think every household should know that it's available to them. I always tell my life for right now has been dedicated to educating the Hispanic community
Hmm.
about, just principles, policies, just getting involved civically, being more involved, period. And so I always tell them, they're defensive about me coming in. I never tell them I'm there to preach for a party. I tell them I'm there to preach for policies. And
Hmm.
I always tell them, at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay if you choose to, wherever you align with, I'm going to be okay with it. So long as you know that there is another, something else, and that you can compare and educate yourself and then figure out, okay, I'm sorting through this. Where do I fit in? Or I agree with this policy, not with this policy. I agree with this, not that. But I want them to be more mindful about the things that they either vote for. And if they haven't been involved, they understand what's affecting the household, what the decisions that we either make or don't make, choices that we make or don't make affect our everyday lives. And that's really my goal, is to just educate our Hispanic community. So being that I tell them, look, always look at, you're used to watching, CNN, MSNBC, the mainstream media, you're used to watching Telemundo and Univision, but you also have to see what the other side is saying now. And I think it's very unfortunate that we've been divided like this, Zach. It's unfortunate that you even have to come up with a platform like this, because so many of these people on your platform have been censored or they're suppressed, so you don't really see their stories. And I've experienced it. I've been banned on Twitter and then put back on Twitter. And so I've seen that. I know I'm fully suppressed. I've been on Facebook for years, and honestly, my page doesn't ever grow. It's been stuck at, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, 2-3 thousand for years. And I'm
Hmm.
like, how do I not grow on Facebook? But I know why. So, hey, we thank you for your bravery. We thank you for doing what you do and what you've done. This nation owes you, just the gratitude, because some people are not as brave, Zach, as you were. And so, were you politically involved, or this was just your job and you just kind of felt like what you saw, it was wrong? I mean, what really drove you to say something?
I mean, it's funny is that I would have thought that there would have been more people. I thought that, I was like, why did it fall in my hands? Right. Why wasn't there like 10 or 100 people standing in line, blowing the whistle on Google saying, hey, this is really bad stuff that's going on here. And they're lying to, the public. They're lying under oath in congressional testimony, saying that they don't, censor anyone. And it was just so wrong and evil, specifically because Google spent so much time telling the world that it would never do any evil. Right now, if this was like Oracle or something, I wouldn't have cared. Like, Oracle's never said we're going to do the right thing, or we're not going to do any evil, and we're going to organize the world's information, make it universally accessible. Right? Google went against its own constitution, which was one of the reasons why I actually joined the company, was because I believed in the constitutional bullet points that they had. Don't be evil, organize the world's information, and make it universally accessible. It's simple. It's the right thing to do. I still believe in that. Unfortunately, Google has lost its way and they no longer believe in that mission statement anymore. Right? They're adding a caveat. They're like, oh, we'll organize information, but that's only information we qualify as information. If we don't like you, we're going to qualify it as misinformation. Then we're not going to organize it. We're going to disorganize it and not allow it to, be on the first few pages. And then it's funny. It's like, they'll say, oh, like 300,000 search results when you go to Google search. But then if you like go through, like, by page 6, it like just stops. It's like, oh, we only showed you 400. So they're pretty much removing, stuff they don't like off of the pages.
Wow.
And it's happening across YouTube. It's happening across Google. And the way that they're able to retune their engine so that they can figure out what to derank and get rid of is part of their new AI system. And that AI system, which is called machine learning fairness, um, essentially is able to be fed new data as they say, oh, this is the new fake news of the news cycle. And then everything on the internet gets re-ranked according to that. And that's what's really, crazy. And what's also interesting is that the MSM, they are gaming keywords so that when something in the news happens and you want to search for it, like Obama kids in cages, what happens is that the BBC will write an article with like, kids in cages, but then, and Obama, and those keyword stuff, those articles, so that you go to their article, which doesn't even talk about Obama kids in cages. It's just an attack piece on Donald Trump. And so they're using all of these different techniques in order to, re-rank the internet. And, I saw what was going on with YouTube. I worked at YouTube for the final 3 years. I worked at Google for, I was 8.5 year veteran of the company. And the last 3 years I worked at YouTube. And, what was happening with the YouTube influencers is that they were being systematically, kicked off. Like first it started with Alex Jones, and it was obvious that it was collusion because it was like within 2 minutes, like 3 different platforms, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook all dropped him. Right. And I remember like, the mainstream media at the time saying, oh, well, Alex Jones is a special case, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, and now it's anyone that says anything outside of the mainstream narrative can now be subject to removal, according to Google's plans. And now we're learning that the FBI is actually coming out and asking Google, oh, you need to get rid of this, you need to get rid of that. And they're doing this. Well, actually, we know that it's happening with Twitter because Facebook. We know that's happening with Facebook because Mark Zuckerberg said so on Joe Rogan, right? And we assume that the exact same thing is happening because we know that there's been communication between Google and different politicians like Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff. They've admitted to this. And what's really interesting with these things is that no matter how bad you think that it is, when you really get into the meat and potatoes of the subject, it's always worse than what you thought it was going to be. It's like, as you peel back, it's like, oh, well, now I've got a new expectation of how bad it could be. And then you go deeper. It's like, oh no, the government, the FBI, the deep state's actually getting in there and using the power to willingly violate the First Amendment through government action so that we don't have a voice online. And so, this was, something that was evil. And I don't know why I was the first one to come out and, hit them on this. Like, this should have been something that was, universal. I feel like the employees should have pushed back more. A lot of the good employees just freaking left, right? Like they're like, I can work anywhere. Why do I wake up and have to work in this dystopian nightmare? And they just hit the exit button and, go off on their new, job. And so I actually wanted to do the same thing, but there was a very influential conservative. Well, I'll put that in air quotes. I'm not going to say who he is, but he convinced me really to stay within Google because he's like, look, we don't have anyone else like you inside. Like we need that person on the inside to see what's really going on in the belly of the beast. And so, I stayed and I basically started gathering intelligence, right? Like, and what was really interesting is that the company had been formed by Eric Schmidt, and Eric Schmidt is actually like, he's brainwashed, but he thinks he's a good guy. And he designed Google around this, policy of transparency. Like, hey, if we're not going to do anything evil, then anyone within the company can go and look at what anyone else is doing, see their OKRs, see what they're doing, see their snippets, see their code reviews, their change lists. And so as just having normal full-time access, I was able to just, look on Google's internal systems and sort of snoop around. Now, obviously, they've put all of that to an end. Like that was a time-limited opportunity that, we had all the way up until 2018 when they started getting smart and locking everything down. But by that time, it was already too late. I'd exfiltrated all of the information to Project Veritas and was sort of just, waiting inside, waiting for that phone call when they were going to announced to me that they were going to, had done a bust. Well, a year and a half went by. That never really happened. And so I decided that I was going to finally, I couldn't take it anymore. There was like a succession of different YouTube purges that were going on starting in April, and then May. And then I was just like, I can't do this. I don't know what the heck's going on with Project Veritas. Unbeknownst to me, in parallel to this, they had actually staked out a sting and had completed it, and were on, the final production. And so, and this is the most amazing coincidence I've ever had in my life. And it happened to me right here at one of the most important parts of it. When I decided that I was going to leave, I told my boss, "Hey, I'm unofficially want to let you know I'm leaving next week. I'll make it official." As I was writing my resignation letter, I was a little embittered because, nothing had ever really come from my disclosure yet to Project Veritas. And so I was trying to figure out how to insert, not that I was upset, wanting to keep a happy tone, but put just a little something in there so that people could figure it out. What kind of what kind of slide puzzle can I put in there to let people know that I'm leaving because of moral grounds? Well, I got interrupted in this by a call from Joe Halderman, the executive producer at the time of Project Veritas. And he's like, "Zach, we've got a transcript. We want you to read it." I read it. It turned out that the transcript was from Jen Janai admitting that on tape that only something the size of Google could stop the next Trump situation. Wow. And so I went on a rant, kind of like I'm doing now, but I did it to them, and they were like, "This is really great. Could you fly to New York and say that on camera?" And I said, "Absolutely. In fact, I'm writing my resignation letter right now." Hung up the phone, wrote the best resignation letter of my life. It was the shortest one. In fact, it was the only one I've written. So I guess you could also argue that it was the worst. But it was thanking everyone for a really great time and all the growth. And I sent it in. I didn't go into work that day. I decided to do a work from home. Immediately on the submission of that, HR tried to ambush me. They had launched an investigation. Network security saw the stuff that I was looking at, I suppose, and were like, "Oh, this guy's actually a security threat." And so they tried to get me inside of the Google office, but I wasn't there. I was actually at home. And I told them that I was not going to come in fact, because I was leaving and I didn't want to deal with any more BS, especially from HR. So they immediately locked me out of deactivated my key card, let me know that my termination was immediate, that they were accepting my resignation. Usually I was supposed to terminate on June 28th. And this was June 10th or something. And they were like, we're going to accept it immediately. And I was like, "Great, awesome." And so I flew up to Project Veritas, and we let them have it. First, it was anonymous in June of 2019. And then I actually ended up getting swatted by YouTube. They called in a wellness check on me because they had sent a harasser after me on Twitter, and we were able to set up a trap where we had one of my buddies started arguing and gave him a link to an image, but the link to the image was actually hosted on a server. So we got the IP logs, reverse geocoded the IP to a location on the earth. That spot on the earth was Google, Indianapolis. And so we saw that. We're like, "Okay, this is coming from within Google." And then I went to Twitter and I basically said, I did this tweet right here. I'll show you. It's in my book. In the event of my untimely death, all documents become public. And it shows me stabbing this dragon. YouTube got freaked out by that. They thought somehow that was a threat to them or something. So they sent out the police. I didn't answer the door, refused to. They didn't see me, but I was just like, "Oh, how do they know whether I'm here or not?" And then they saw some electronics, and they also saw a container of denatured alcohol, which my roommate uses to spin fire. And so they were like, "Oh, this could be a bomb." And they just started upgrading the escalation until, the SWAT team, the bomb squad, the sheriff's department, the FBI were all at my house. And I eventually, surrendered myself, and then was like, "Okay, time to blow the whistle, because they're definitely not going to let me go. And you, the American citizen in the world, have a right to know about Google censorship, how it works, how everything they say is a sack of lies, and also to, empower the lawyers around the world to be able to get this information and be like, this is the evidence we need to prove that Google's in a collusion to end freedom online as we know it. Like, if we don't have the freedom of speech, then we don't have the freedom of commerce. And then we're in a totalitarian communist, system where everything that we want has to be by permission by these elites. And,
Mhm.
that's not that's not something that we voted on. That's not something we had a referendum on. It's just something that they're doing. So it's like, hey, no, we're not. We as a collective humanity have a voice, and I'm going to step forward and represent that in order to tell Google, with moral authority, what you're doing is wrong, and we're not going to take it anymore. And this is some damage that you're going to take because of this. And as a result, the company got really disrupted. They locked a whole bunch of stuff down. They ended political discussion. But, what they didn't do is they didn't stop the censorship. And to bring it back
Right.
to Blast.video, this was sort of like my atonement for the fact that I participated in the system.
So this is, I mean, I'm blown away. So when you um blew the whistle, and you started to pretty much expose everything, they did, I guess I mean, am I to assume here that Google did not change its ways? They didn't go and change anything. They're still doing what they were doing before while you were there. Are we to
Yeah.
assume that still? So they did. Okay. So yes, you blew the whistle, but yet they just continued to do what they were doing. So you went over to, I see, I'm going through your page here. Tell us a little bit about this book. I want people to know and support you, and know that you wrote this book, and obviously they can get it on Amazon, it says here.
Yep. They can get Amazon. There's Amazon link at my website, zachvorhees.com. And it's more in depth of everything that I'll be talking about here. It also includes things like the blacklists, which were really kind of mind blowing for me, because what was
Wow.
interesting is, and it sounded really crazy at the time that I said this, but now, a couple of years has happened. So false flag attacks are big in the news, and now people are realizing, oh my gosh, there's a lot of like false flag attacks happening, right? Like, I don't want to call any recent ones because it's against the current thing. You may get a strike, but a lot of these like mass attacks are weird. And what's weird is that the amount of attention that Google has to essentially block people from being able to
Wow.
find false flag attack information. Like, people are trying to
Wow.
verify, hey, what's the stuff? What about this guy? Because like the deep state's using actors, right? Like,
Right.
they want the terror of these mass attacks, but they don't want a bunch of surviving family members, unraveling the whole thing. So the best way to prevent, the relatives of victims is to just fake the victimhood, right? And
Right.
it's really an elaborate plan when you actually look in. When I was discovering this, I'd rather thought that I was going crazy than to realize that there is a organized effort to simulate mass attacks. And when people try to figure out the truth, there was someone on the inside of Google finding out every single one of these keywords, looking at the keywords, what was popular, what keywords were matching up to, because they kind of put out these honeypots, and
Right.
they find these videos. And then from the videos, there's like a list of references of the keywords people use to find those videos. So what they do is they just like get a bunch of videos that represent, the center of the conspiracy swarm, and they figure out all the different keywords, and then they put those keywords on a blacklist. That's the blacklist that I've got in this book and also on the website. And people ought to know, because, these elites want to guide people to a new world order, and they're going to do it by any means possible. And they have no, problems bending, the fabric of the perception of reality in order to mind rape us to the point that we move along to the position that they want us to go towards.
So, something that I thought about when our country was being lit on fire by BLM and Antifa, during that summer that
Hmm.
they called a peaceful summer. Um, this all of a sudden you just saw all these like all over the country. Like all of a sudden everybody was looting and starting fires and just it was madness. And a little I don't know, I just had a thought in my head and I'm like, I wondered. I was like, I wonder if social media literally played a part in triggering and sending like it's like they almost know what agitates someone, so they have these people and profiles identified and they know like what to send to their phones, so when they're on social media it gets them riled up and then they all go as a mob and create chaos because it's based on emotions and feelings. And so like I feel like they put together some kind of file or something, and this system knows how to press people's buttons. Because I thought, I mean, I know people watch social media, but this was almost, I've never seen anything in my lifetime where like it was all over the country and it was like quick. It was like within the day. It was like people were on the street and they were murdering people and lighting cars on fire, and just vandalism, and it was just complete madness. And it happened so fast that I felt like that social media literally preyed on the mindset, and they only triggered people they knew were going to get emotional and hit the streets.
Right.
And so you're kind of talking about this, and you're kind of saying this is what they do. They want to control the masses. They want to control people's minds. So they have to know how you think, how what you feel. And I know I was first exposed to a little bit of it when I was working at the Republican Party of Texas.
Hmm.
And they had some, I can't remember what they called it. I don't know if it was like a crowdsource. I don't even remember, but it was like some system, and they were like, "Oh yeah, well, this is how we look up voters." And I was like looking at it, and they're like, "Yeah, you can even like." They pulled up for example, they were like pulling up my name. They're like, "Yeah, this is how we know that these people at these addresses, we know what they like or what issue they're passionate about because they search it, they read about it, they've ordered something on Amazon and eBay."
Hmm.
And I was like watching this thing and I'm like, wait, what? And I saw my profile, and it literally it like they knew where if I shopped online, they knew where I shopped online, they knew my searches. And I was like, that's too much information.
Hmm.
And it was done through Google. And I remember saying, I don't want people to have access to this. And they said, well, you can go to Google and change your privacy settings. And I was like, go to Google and change my privacy settings. I mean, and I did. I ran home and I was like, I got my husband's, I got myself. I was like, I don't want people to know where I shop, what policies, I mean, that's none of their business. I thought that was a huge invasion of privacy. It's like they had this little profile, so they knew like, hey, this person, we can knock on her door, she will vote our way because she believes or likes and she searches and reads about this and this. And I just felt like that was a huge invasion of privacy, and that's when I was first exposed to it. And I think that was back in 2016,
Yeah.
2016, 2017, I believe. And I was thinking, what in the world? So I can just imagine we're now 2022, the advancements that they have made. So I'm sure that it's not, the profiles are probably even bigger. So
Well, look at 2000 Mules. Like
yes.
Dinesh D'Souza just went out there and bought everyone's geolocation data and then filtered it for those that were inside a certain radius at certain times, was able to find 2000 mules, right? And that was one of the most amazing things about that movie that went over everyone else. Like no one was talking about it, was, wait a minute, I can just go and just buy in bulk everyone's 3 or 2D information on the planet and just track them and see where they went. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. No one's we haven't even had a conversation about that. The New York Times hasn't written about it. It was just, this is the level of surveillance that they have on each and every one of us now.
Right. And so, and they'll stop at nothing. You're exactly right. They'll stop at nothing. So with that said, then what are your thoughts on some of these new platforms? Truth Social, Getter. I'm just going to mention those. They can still track you. It doesn't matter if you're on Truth Social. It doesn't matter what platform you're on, right? Does it have to be, YouTube? Does it have, I mean, don't they still have capabilities based on IP address to track
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. I mean, like everyone's being tracked. There's no sense of, here's the thing. Even if you are like, I'm going to cloak myself, that just kind of tips them off, and how many of these VPNs are actually compromised by either Chinese companies or whatever? Like they're logging everything that you have. And I think that the VPNs are kind of almost like honeypots, right? Like
Right.
it's a repository of information from people who want to be hidden, which means that you've got less noise to protect you.
Right.
And so, I think that it's kind of a poor prognosis. I think that we're going to be, tracked. I think that's the future. I think it's a force of nature at this point because, sensors are getting really cheap these days. I think that what we have to do is essentially turn the technology on them. Like instead of saying, oh, we've got swords and we need to fight the advancement of guns, we should say, no, we should get those guns and also, so that we have parity. And essentially right now is that, with that metaphor, essentially what we have is we've got surveillance. It's being turned on us. Well, we can also turn it on them, right? And Dinesh D'Souza was the first instance that this took a form as a major video, right? Like he came out there and he's like, hey, let's just, enter into that open market. We'll take in that information and we'll just present it to the people. Now we're like, oh, look, the election was really rigged. And so that's great. Like that's using the power of the tools against it. And I think that this whole thing about privacy, like privacy needs to evolve. And we do need to have the surveillance at some point. And people may be shocked that I say that. And the reason why is because I use AI to code. And AI is like a nuclear bomb. In fact, it's worse than a nuclear bomb. Like what we have to realize is that AI doesn't just physically destroy buildings. It can destroy culture. It's going to destroy jobs. It's going to make most of the planet's population into a useless class. And so the manifestations of this AI means that it can go online. It can take over entire cults of people and then get them to do race wars, basically psyop them into a cult state so that we can destabilize our country together. Right. I think that's what the elites really want to do. And so I think right now what we see that the elites are trying to break the internet over and over and over again. I think that QAnon was a really great example of this. Like we don't know where QAnon came. Like Congress never launched an investigation. So let's just assume that QAnon was some deep state psyop similar to Operation Trust that was done from the Bolsheviks. And essentially what we have right now is we've got major actors in this space spreading their own misinformation and then trying to create social movements around this misinformation. I think that one of the big instances of this is the flat earth theory. Like, come on, people. It's the same map as the UN uses. Like, obviously it's a psyop by them, right? Like, and so it's like they try to create a movement, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to, instead of getting us all into the same sort of misinformation state, which is the goal of the CIA for every single one of us. What I believe they're trying to do is they're now trying to fracture this misinformation state and create different polarized regions of misinformation. And so depending on your behavior type, they're going to start slotting you in. Oh, this person's a conspirator. This guy's a dupe. So let's put him in with all the other leftists. And now it's like they're going to battle. And essentially what you have is you've got, the left wing, and then you got a right wing version of this. And then what I think is we're going to get to a state where it splits off into 3 or 4 or 5. And basically you're going to have people that are zonked out. And this is going to break the internet to such an extent that I believe the elites are going to come in with their solution of be like, well, let's just make sure that everyone's verified and that every single site that you have is verified. And, they're putting in that infrastructure right now. Like, if you know about this SSL certificate, it's that green little lock that
Yep.
comes on the left hand side of the address bar in Chrome or
Huh?
Brave. Like, first they're like, oh, we need to protect our users. And now they're slowly putting in more and more control, such that if they don't like your website, they'll revoke your SSL certificate and they won't issue you another. So your browser won't connect to it. And before, in Chrome, you could like click through, and now they've taken that out, like, as far as I know, completely. And you need to go to these alternative, browsers. And so what they're doing is they're
Wow.
continually pushing us into these digital ghettos. And then at the right time, they'll just seal it off altogether. And then, as each time they push us further and further into the depths of where we can, retreat into, there's less and less and less of us. So when they finally end, all of the online censorship and transition us to a fully censored Chinese style internet system, it's going to have been a long process, and people would have peeled off on the way down there, and there won't be enough mass to be able to put up an effective resistance unless we still have time right now. That's the thing, is that they
Right.
haven't gotten in their new world order yet. We still have a democracy. Yes, they're trying to rig it with ranked choice voting and, machine rigging and all these fancy databases, but they haven't completed it yet. And what's amazing right now is that there's this worldwide phenomenon of an awakening process
Right.
mediated by this social media. Like,
Right.
this social media is, you could think of it, one instance, as, a computer system, but you can also think of it as a computer human hybrid system. In that way, it's sort of a meta consciousness where the nodes themselves are human brains and the connections between them are mediated by, wireless network connectivity. And
Right.
so it's this hybrid system that's amplifying in a self-amplifying way, that's creating this new change that we see in society. It's similar to the invention of the Gutenberg printing press. And what did we learn with the Gutenberg printing press? Oh, it turns out that the elites that are acting in the name of God are actually liars, and they're taxing us for our sins, right?
Right.
Like, you literally paid the church to forgive you, and people started printing out the Bible, and they were like, wait a minute, this is BS. There's nowhere in the Bible that it says that you guys can tax us for our sins, right? And so
Right.
it through the authorities, it showed them to be liars. The people stopped believing in them, and then you had this like Reformation movement, literally driven by the Gutenberg printing press. And now we've got social media, which is the new Gutenberg printing press. And once again, we're finding out that everything that the elites have been telling us have been lies. In fact, the bigger it is, the bigger the lie, which is the most incredible thing that you keep on discovering as you go
Yes.
down these different rabbit holes, is that,
Yes.
like, what are they really lying about that? Of course they're lying about that. That's the reason why they told it to us so many times.
Right.
And so, you know, we still have this chance now that everyone's waking up. We're getting interconnected. It's a global movement, right?
Right.
Like, you go to these other, like, you go to Bali and people are talking about the New World Order and Klaus Schwab. It's like, holy crap, we're all on the same page. And
Yeah.
so, just maybe we're going to be able to use this sort of global, awakening to preserve a decentralized system, preserve human prosperity, and get the government off our backs, at least a
Yeah.
little bit, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
Correct.
if we fail, I think we're going to slide into World War III, because the elites really need something to cover up all the BS that they've been throwing at us for the last 6 years.
It's truly crazy. Two movies came to mind. I have two boys that are grown now, but when they were little, that Pixar, I don't know if it was Pixar movie, Wally,
Yeah.
the little robot. And I kind of look back and I'm like, that'll be us if we allow this to continue to happen. We will be in some spaceship controlled by whoever, and we eat all at the same time. They tell us what to think, what to do, where to go, how to eat, everything, how to dress. There's no life, right? There's no, until Wally goes and finds some little plant or whatever. It's like, so I think about that was total control of society. And then the other movie that comes to mind, and when you're talking about breaking us up all in districts, and this is all, I'm like, it's almost like Hollywood has made these movies because they knew this was coming. But like Hunger Games, I mean, it's like the elites, right, at the Capitol, and there's all these districts, and they break you down into districts, and you got to fight each other, and then they, pick the people, and you got to go and, whoever survives, that's the district that gets, some, whatever food or whatever. It's insane. And that's what I think, like, I imagine, I'm like, if we don't do anything, and stand up for our rights and our freedoms, our pro freedom, that we're given through the Constitution and through God. I mean, if we don't do that, I mean, then that's what we're going to look like as a society. And so I think you're right. One of the things that I've been saying to people is, people are always like, oh, we're going to go do this and we're going to do that. And I'm like, I think it's a waste of time. I'm kind of like you, like the mindset of, like, why don't you just use their laws that they've passed against them? Like, why is you don't need to go and try to figure something out. You just use the laws that they have passed against them, because they're, and that's, people I don't think have figured that out, Zach. So it's almost kind of the same thing what you're saying with, so with media is, well, they're using it on us, so why not we use it on them? It's like the
Right.
same thing, right? You reverse it. And you're right. Listen, no one has questioned the 2000 mule thing with Dinesh D'Souza. No one has said, hey, wait a minute, he went and bought data. No one. Everybody's just concentrating on the, election integrity issue. No one really said, wait, how did he gain all this information to even track these people? That is that is the issue,
And I want to add that I support the fact that he did that for this movie. Like, you got to take any advantage that you can, right? But
right.
the question is, that's pretty interesting.
Right, exactly. And they should have definitely talked more about it. So I was, scrolling through your website here, and it's I love that you have these stories, and you pretty much have done a good job of, when they either what they talked about when they talked about you, or they talked about, Google. You pretty much lay it out here. People can come and click on it and read it. And I think this is some very useful information. I think, most people should come out and take a look at this, but most importantly, they need to support you. And I think, I honestly, I didn't even know you had a book. So this is great that you're telling me, check out the book, because I'm going to go and I'm going to order it, because I want to read it, and I want to know, what you talk about, and it could be helpful to me. Right. And so, the other thing is, let me go back through here. Let me remove this. I want to go back to Blast, to the Blast Stop video, because I want you to walk us through it. Hold on a second here. Let me see. I want you to walk. Oh, wait, what is it doing? Share. Okay, hold on. It got a little funky on me here. Blast Stop video. Here we go. All right. I want you to walk us through it. You start with a trending.
I've actually got a promo video. If we want to do that, check out in the private chat, and click the link.
I was going to ask you about that. Okay, so I saw that you do have a private chat. So let's see here. I've just clicked on it, but I've got to go and share the actual screen for that. So it's loading up the private chat. There we go. Okay, hold on.
You're gonna
it's still loading the private chat.
I
just saw that. Yeah, I just saw that, and I was like, "Ooh, what's the private chat about?" Oh, did you send me something on the private chat?
Yeah, I sent you a link. Yeah.
Oh no, I was going to say, I was trying to figure out, do you have a chat on Blast Stop video?
Oh no, I don't. But I can do it. I've got this promo video. I've got this promo video that I just sent you in private chat. If you click on it, it's going to walk us through it, and it's going to entertain you. It's going to be very, very entertaining. You guys, if you're watching, you're not going to want to miss this.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. Okay, I am pulling it up right now. It's taking a bit to load here, so just bear with us, guys. A big shout out to our Getter family. We have a great audience on Getter, because they don't suppress me. Actually, I can actually talk freely on Getter, and so I get our message out. So big shout out to all of our supporters out at Getter that are just, it's our Getter family is just amazing. I just am very fond of Getter. Okay, it's still, I don't know why is it taking so long? Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Here we go. Hold on.
You got it.
Oh, hold on. I got it. I got it. Let me just
You got it.
now go back and make sure I am sharing it. Yep. Hold on. Let me go pull up the right one now.
Yeah. So I'll just talk a little bit about
This is like
last
so weird. It
video.
makes me go and stop the sharing and reshare.
Yeah. So I created Blast right
All
after
right, let's see
Biden
where it
won.
is. All right, here we go.
Here we go. Okay, let's do it.
Is it up? All right.
Last top video uncancels America. Hi there. My name is Zach Voorhees. You may know me as the Google Whistleblower. And I think it's safe to say I hate censorship more than anyone else that I know. And that's the reason why I created Blast.video, a new type of social media system called an aggregator. And the way that it cracks through censorship is that it scans open video platforms like Rumble, like BitChute, like Brighteon, like Gab TV, and looks for new content by the content creators that you love. It takes those new videos that it finds, it brings it under one single website called Blast.video, where it serves it to you. Can you mute your microphone? Project Veritas, Alex Jones and InfoWars, Bannon's War Room, Stu Peters, Next News Network, Rebel News, OAN, Newsmax, Epic Times. We feature independent creators like Awaken with JP, Dinesh D'Souza, Stephen Crowder, Bongino Report, Andy No, Chrissy Mayer, Judicial Watch, Lex Friedman, Jordan Peterson, Jordan Sather, Ann Vandersteel, Glenn Beck, Ruben Report, Gothics, Sarah Carter, Viva Free, Charlie Kirk, Mr. Reagan, Lionel Nation, RSBN, Black Pigeon Speak, Scott Adams, Lauren Southern, Lauren Chen, Ben Shapiro, Dell Bigtree, Dix Hexenhammer, Gateway Pundit, Candace Owens, Quite Frankly, Freedom Tunes, We Are Changed, Jimmy Dore, Tim Pool, Anomaly, The Quartering, Black Conservative Patriot, Health Ranger Reports, Matt Walsh, PragerU, Red Pill 78, Sarah Westall, SGT Reports. We scan a total of 250 content creators across platforms every single hour for fresh videos. It's like censorship never even happened to the conservative community. And I'm looking for your help to make Blast.video the #1 spot in America for conservative news. The reason is because I want to create a better future. In the future, there is no censorship of humans thanks to Blast.video. And now I'm going to use this time machine to go back to the present. And it looks like Blast.video couldn't come soon enough. So you may be asking yourself, when does Blast.video launch? And I've got great news. If all goes well, Blast.video will launch in 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, and it's just going to keep on dragging a little bit longer, but that's... Yeah. So, yeah, that's Blast.video right there. And,
I'm gonna use that. I didn't have that. I'm gonna use that and play it on my Monday morning show. And make sure that our listeners, they were like, this is great. They were like texting in and they were like, this is awesome. Cause they were like, we don't have to go here, there, and everywhere to grab. And they could find anything they wanted right here on Blast.video. I thought it was fantastic. I thought, I mean, it's brilliant, not just fantastic, it's brilliant. And we really needed something like this, especially, people like me, that I get censored all the time. And so, it's just crazy. I'm like, and the one thing that, I was watching Tucker tonight, and the one thing that they're really afraid of, Zach, is they're afraid of the Hispanic community. So it's now become the top news about, the Hispanics. Jorge Ramos is talking about it on Univision. He's trying to make a connection of why the Hispanics are leaving the Democrat Party, and he's blaming religion for it. And he's almost shaming the Catholic Church and saying, you Catholics, they're leaving you Catholics to go to the Protestant and the evangelical and the Pentecostal church. And they're trying to say that it's because, people can't have a relationship and go to dinner or lunch or sit at the table with the priest, but you can go do it with a pastor. And I'm like, that's nonsense. I grew up Catholic. You can go and have fellowship with a priest anytime. There's always gatherings at the Catholic Church. What's wrong with you people? And so I saw that, and then Tucker was talking about it tonight, like how the Democrats are like launching this thing and saying that there's a Cuban syndrome, and they're blaming Trump for it, and they're saying, these Hispanics, we got to get them under control out in Florida because they're affecting Texas and affecting, California, and affecting, New Mexico and Arizona. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And so, I think my culture is going to be the next one that comes under massive attack. And if I didn't tell you this, I'm the president of Latinos for Trump, the organization. We have a nonprofit organization. And so we've done, that's where we go and do all of our education. We have never been like about Trump. We've been more about his America First policies and why we supported the policies. And so, we had on Facebook, and especially right before election, we'd grown. We had, our South Texas, one of our South Texas directors started the whole Trump train thing with his one truck, and it spread like wildfire. And then you saw all these Trump trains all over the country, right? And everybody started doing it. And so one of the things is we were like, our page was exploding on Facebook. And that's because it was our fifth new page. They'd already shut us down over and over and over. And we had this new page, and we went from like, I don't know, a couple thousand. And then we like grew like in a week to like 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, 12,000. At 12,000, when we finally had the Rio Grande Valley, there was about 5,000 cars in the Rio Grande Valley here in Texas, which was unheard of. They shut us down because, Lord forbid, the rest of the country saw that there was 5,000 Hispanics out on the street, supporting Trump because of his pro-life policies, his protecting our religious liberties, protecting parents, education, being an advocate for, every kid getting a good education and trying to end Common Core, and, just on and on and on. I mean, there was so many things that he did good that affected, we were like, what, unemployment was the lowest we'd ever seen. And a lot of our community was, obviously, we're a hardworking community. So all of that said, that's why our communities were supporting him. They could see past, okay, so he said some bad stuff in a bus, and so he's not the perfect person, so he's married 3 times. I mean, that's in a Hispanic culture. We deal with that. I mean, it's not like everybody deals with that. So it wasn't like we didn't support him and vote for him because we loved him. We saw a fighter in him. He was fighting for us. He was doing good things. And so that's why people came out for him. And Lord forbid that we did that. That's against a plantation mentality. We are owned by the Democrat Party, and you cannot vote any other way. We had people that have been used to going to the polls and automatically handed a Democrat ballot. Automatically. They weren't asked. They weren't. And so when we had to start educating our people, because, Zach, most people didn't know. They would just get the ballot, and then they'd be like, oh, they'd go vote, and they'd be like, yeah, I didn't see your name on the ballot. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't see my name on the ballot? So you didn't see someone's name on the ballot. And after all these things, we realized they weren't even giving them a choice or even telling them, which ballot do you want? They just assumed that because you were Hispanic, they just gave you the Democrat ballot. Well, in 2020, they learned that we had educated so many people. People were walking up to the polling locations and saying, they would automatically give them the Democrat ticket, and they'd say, no, I need a Republican. And they'd be like, what? Like, it was not heard of. You couldn't say that. And literally, do you know that they kept the Republican ballots like behind? Like, they literally had to get the presiding judge to come out. They had to go behind somewhere and go open up a package of Republican ballots to give it to them. And so they couldn't have this. It was just like, this can't happen. But imagine they have taken advantage of, I only focus with Hispanic communities. I'm sure it's been happening to a lot of communities. It's not just the Hispanic community, but that was where my passion was, my heart was. So if they were doing it to my community, I'm sure they were doing it to others. And it broke my heart that these people literally their mentality was, this is who you are, this is how you will vote, this is what you get no other choices, we will expose you to nothing else, we won't even ask you the question if you're one or the other or whatever. And to me, I was like, what a disservice to our community, because you never educated them and never told them that they had a choice, or that you never. And some of these people, Zach, in the Rio Grande Valley are just really, really hardworking people. And we have, communities that are called colonias that don't even have running water. Okay, believe it or not. Yeah, in this United States, there is some communities that don't have running water. And they so it's very sad. And to think that you take advantage of them because maybe they are not as educated, but they're really hardworking people and they do the best that they can to provide for their family, with the little that they have. And to think that they were being taken advantage of, by a party system because they didn't want them, it's just nonsense to me. And so we got completely censored. I mean, we've lost pages and had to rebuild them. And but they listen, they know. I mean, the profiles are under me, so it's like, oh yeah, she just moves on to the next page and the next page. And at some point you just go, forget it. Like, I'm tired of having to open up a new page just because you don't like what I said. And it's just a very big disservice. But they're really afraid of the Hispanic community. They really are, and they're freaking out right now. Before midterms, they're freaking out because our Hispanics are not as dumb as people think that we are. We catch on pretty quickly if you let us see the information.
Yeah.
Let us see the information and let us make a decision for ourselves. Look, there's going to be some Hispanics that don't believe in conservative principles. That's okay. They don't have to. But the majority of our community is very conservative. We don't believe in killing our babies. We believe in marriage between men and wife. We believe in providing a good education for our children. Just very simple, common things that, that's our culture. We are very.
How about a free and fair election? Right?
And
Like, we have to even talk about the polarizing things. Like, I think that, I think we can all agree that we need to have a democracy, that we don't want our entire world run by these elites. And
exactly.
Now they're going to have to say, like, what are they going to have to flip it and say that democracy is the tool of fascism? Like, where are they going to take this thing? That's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. And Zach, most of our Hispanic or Latino Mexicans, they fled socialist communist countries and came here to have freedom. And now they're seeing that freedom taken away from them, and they're starting to see these signs, and they're like, what is happening? See, they don't realize that they've just triggered a sleeping giant. I've been telling people, I think our Hispanic community is going to be the game changers and the history makers. We're going to be at the forefront of saving this country. We have to be. We have the majority of in numbers, and I think we just have to do. This is why I do what I do, and your blast up video is going to help me educate and share with our communities and say, hey, go here and here's some stories. Look at this information. If you agree with it, don't agree with it, but at least you know that it's out there, and make an informative decision. Don't let people take advantage of you.
So, I want to show you a really cool feature that I put on Blast Off Video to help you do just that type of sharing. Okay. Let's bring it up if we can.
Bring it up. All right.
So what I want to point out is you ever use like an internet downloader to like get a YouTube video that you like,
Yes.
And you're like, they're slow, and then you got to like cut it. So you got to like open it up in another program, and then you got to cut it. Then you got to re-render it. What I did is I created a clipping tool. And and I embedded it on the Blast.video page. And what you're going to see is at the bottom right of every single video clip, there's going to be a little tiny word that says clip on it. And it's actually a link.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I do see it.
This.
Okay.
So go ahead and click the clip.
Okay. I'm doing it.
It's loading now.
Slowly. Yeah, it's loading.
Why is your computer so slow? It's a really simple
I
website.
don't know
Is it? And no, I
because
think it opened up in another tab.
it did.
Check.
It did. Hold
Yeah.
on. I don't. Yep, it did. And so
Okay.
hold on a second. So I see it now. Yeah, I have it open up in another tab. So hold on so that I don't lose it. Let me go and got to do this again. Okay, hold on. Bear with me. I want to see this because I brought it up, so it's up already. So
Yeah.
okay, here we go. And it is on Video Clipper. Okay, here we go. You see
Right.
it?
So yeah. So when you hit clip, it's going to open
Uh-huh.
up a new website. It's going to have the video URL pre-populated, and then it's going to have a clip that's big enough or small enough to fit on Twitter. And it's a 2 minute 20 seconds.
Wow.
So you can put in your
Holy
start clip and download, and it's going to do it in the background, and then it's going to give you a download of that fully clipped.
oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
You have now I heard you talk about this, but I never went back. I didn't even pay attention. I just I especially go through the news, the actual like news articles. But I didn't know I could do this. This is dangerous to me because I like to share this content. And nobody wants to watch a big long video, but you can always have a 2 minute second video and then route them over to watch the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
if they want to continue to do that. This is great, Zach. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
glad you like
Is there
it.
anything else that you're coming out? Anything else you're going to be adding just out of curiosity to Blast Up Video?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to like get in there. I hit a funding crunch, so I ended up going to work for Mickey Willis. I'm working on his next movie release. So, which is really great because they manage large email lists and they reach a large amount of people. So they're able to create these sort of waves across America. And so I'm helping with some monetization features for his next movie release and another thing that project that he's going. But what I'm really looking for now is basically an angel investor daddy or a CEO to sort of like take over this project and allow me to just be the programmer. Like I love technology and I really don't like dealing with regulation and taxes and getting this thing to the scale that it needs to. And the thing is that look, like CEOs are just they're at a level of performance that I don't have. And I realize that. I love to program. I'm awesome at programming. I'm a pretty smart guy, but I just don't have the executive function to be a CEO. And I'm looking for that CEO. I'm looking for a guy to sort of like put some money into this because right now it's the best video portal on the internet right now, right? Like,
Absolutely.
Getter and these other things have got, tens of millions of dollars. And, right now I'm getting pocket change for my Give, Send, Go. And the thing is that if someone's out there and they're like, hey, this is awesome, let's get it to the next level.
Right.
I'm going to be very open to that. So please help me if you're out there listening to this, help me find a CEO to really, that's an insider that has the right friends and connections to take this to, the number one place for conservative news on the internet.
Absolutely. So you guys, my Getter fam, I'm telling you, it's hot on Getter right now. Please visit Zach Voorhees, order his book. I'm sure there's a donate button on there as well. Help him out. Blast.video. Make sure you share it with everyone. Go and blast it out on your Getter or on any of your, our other platforms here on, whether it's My Bianca for Texas or Latinos for America First. Make sure you share Zach Voorhees platform. We've got to help them with that. Zach, stay with me real after we end this. I have someone that does want to talk to you and I want to share that information. But I thank you for coming on a Friday night. It's, not always the best, but I seem to have a good crowd on Friday night. It seems to work. People that are not out or, watching to see what's going on my end of the world at Stand Up, Stand Out America. And so I thank you so much for taking the time to come out and let my audience know. If they hadn't heard from you, let them know who you are and the product you have. So guys, you heard him. If you know of any investors or CEO or like, a daddy that wants to go and help Zach make sure that he makes Blast Up Video the place to go. Guys, this is even better than YouTube. YouTube, you have to go and scroll through stuff. This is actually organized for you. Like you actually can go and view things and it's all organized. And I know that when it's a trending, you said, hey, if it's based on what per minute, if viewership per minute, and so it throttles up videos based on if it's something that's spiraling or people are clicking on it, watching it. So you guys are going to get the news right there and then from Blast Dot Video. You don't have to go searching all over the place anymore.
If it's trending in America, it's going to be on Blast Dot Video trending section. That's just, no matter whether it's on BitChute or Rumble or YouTube, it's going to be at the top there, right on the first tab, the main tab, which is trending.
That's awesome. So again, Zach, thank you so much for coming on. And guys, till next Friday, here with La Conservadora Tejana, Bianca Gracia on Stand Up, Stand Out America. And also go visit us and follow us on our pages at weareunited.tap. That is at the America Project. And of course, Latinos for AmericaFirst.com. So anyway, guys, peace out.
See you later.
See you guys later.
Bye.